This is Technology for Humans, conversations with the people shaping the software we rely on, produced by Reinteractive, a Ruby on Rails development agency. We speak to CTOs, founders, and engineering leaders on what they're building today and how they're thinking about what comes next. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Mikel Lindsaar. Bit of an unusual one today. Mikel is actually my boss. He's the founder of Reinteractive, the company for which I work and produces this podcast. But he has many other things besides that. And I normally start these podcasts off by a short rundown resume of who I'm talking to. But today's a little bit harder. Mikel, you have done so many things and are currently doing so many things I can't even list them. So let's start. Obviously, founder of Reinteractive, so Ruby on Rails development agency, Heroku, all of that. You run StoreConnect, which is
yeah, and just saying you better be on good behaviour. Obviously, I've watched the other podcasts, so I don't know. We'll see how we go. No, the hard hitting questions we'll leave to the end.
We're all good because I just closed the big deal this morning. So
okay, fine, good, we're fine. Okay, good. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. You can tell I'm smiling, right?
I run Reinteractive. I created Reinteractive in 2010. So that's like, God, that's more than a decade and a half ago. Yeah. I think I have stated this a couple of times. I think we're the longest running Rails only development shop in the world. Now, there's lots of companies that have been around longer than us that do Rails. That's, ThoughtBot and ThoughtWorks and all these sorts of big companies. But we, in 2010, I founded Reinteractive with just fundamentally the idea to just be really, really good at something, like just excel at one thing.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing about Rails is that while we excel at one thing, Rails excels at a metric crap ton of things. So it really gives us the capability to handle a lot of scope and a lot of range.
Yeah, so, you can do so many things.
Yeah, that's right. I founded Reinteractive in 2010. I started another bunch of companies since then. Status Hub, which I sold. I started and sold as a SaaS product. Still Alive, which I started and sold as a SaaS product. Flood.io, that I co-founded with a friend of mine and then sold as a SaaS product. I've created Enlight.training, which is a instructor-led learning management system, which is a bit unique. And I'm currently the CEO and founder of StoreConnect, which is a SaaS product that runs on top of Salesforce. It uses Rails and to run the front end. But think of it as Shopify plus WordPress plus a complete point of sale system built inside of Salesforce. So we've had clients migrate from Shopify onto StoreConnect and turn off more than 20 SaaS products in the process because we've been able to build it on such a flexible platform of Salesforce with the front-end flexibility and speed of Rails, and it really is just a killer product. So that's what I do. I am still the founder of Reinteractive. Errol and Kane and the crew at Reinteractive take good care of Reinteractive for me and only come in when there's good news, basically, or bad. There's not that much, though, which is good. And yeah, so that's what I do.
Did you mention Metapulse?
Oh yeah, Metapulse. Sorry, yeah, that's another software company that I run. So Metapulse is a growth management system for businesses. So it's the world's first. Actually, no one has claimed that title before us, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't see any other product like it on the market.
No, Metapulse.com basically provides you as an owner or a founder a way and a structure work out who your team chart is and what policies you need to run in your company and what metrics are you tracking, and really just distills it to what you actually have to have in order to know where a company is and where it's going. And yeah, that also runs by itself. But 95% of my week is StoreConnect at the moment.
So you have been developing in Rails for, well, obviously in excess of 15 years or 16 years, the Reinteractive.
25 years, I think. I mean, 20. Yeah, I don't think Rails is 25 years old. So it'd be
it's
around
like 20. Yeah, about 20. Yeah. So that puts you at
Let me
pre-1.
put it this way. My first install of Rails was Rails 0.7, I think.
Right. Okay.
So early days. Yeah.
Very early days. Yeah. Where there was only just a handful of people.
Yep. The whoops and video it's grown was our tutorial.
Yeah, right. I'm interested. Like, obviously, you started way back then, but you've continued using Rails through all of that time. Now, you could have easily have switched to something else in the meantime. You could have jumped on the JavaScript bandwagon, any number of different things, but you've stuck with Rails and, importantly, used it for the SaaS tooling that is powering a company like StoreConnect, which is for want of a better word, juggernaut. So why Rails? I know it's a dumb question, but why Rails?
It's a good question. I mean, I wrote a book on it. So it's on Amazon. You can buy it. It's called Why Rails. It's a pretty hard one to remember the title of. It's a small book. It doesn't take long to answer because it's a really simple question. If I was to boil down Rails to a nutshell, Rails is really the only framework, because it's built on Ruby, that effectively optimizes for developer happiness. And that's Ruby's tenet, right? The language, Ruby on Rails. Ruby's tenet is that there's a lot of platforms out there that optimize for all sorts of things. It could be memory usage or disk speed or I/O. Ruby optimizes for developer happiness. And in my experience of now directly managing, I don't know how many 100 developers over the last 15 years, there's one truth that I think is inescapable is happy developers write less bugs. And this is really true. Happy developers, if you can bring your developers to a state where they enjoy using the platform, they're not constantly banging their head against the boilerplate of Java or, kill me now, having to figure out JavaScript package installation. I mean, it's almost like every week we get a new way to install a JavaScript package, or a new framework, right? It's a constant. Developers love learning. That's always a good thing. But, when you can just go to a Rails app and everything has a place and everything's in its place. I'll give you a really good example of this. A modern Rails developer today, if you took someone off the street who was a developer and you taught them Rails from scratch on Rails version 8 today, you could give them a code base of Rails 0.8 from 2007 or 6 or something, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. And
they could deliver a feature. There would be almost zero relearning. The only thing they'd run into is maybe the feature they're expecting to be pre-built by Rails doesn't actually exist yet, and they might need to build that in Ruby. But all the structure is still the same. All the framework is still the same. It's like when the other frameworks change, it's like going from an aeroplane to a car to a ship, right? Everything is totally in a different spot. This one doesn't even have a propeller. That one's got 2 engines on the wing and this one's got the engines on the tail. And
I am old enough to remember when Angular changed completely. Like, I don't even know why they kept the same name.
Yeah, it may as well have been completely different. That's right. And even when, there's too many examples to show that. But this is the point of Rails, is that everything just has a place. And then secondly, you can just talk to Ruby. So when you read Ruby down a page, there's no, as DHH puts it, there's no line noise. So if you're defining a method in Ruby, it's just def for define, method name with an argument, and then the words, put it up screen, and there you go. And you can actually just read it as English. Right. And I've actually tried this with my wife when she asked me she wasn't my wife then, but she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a programmer." And she goes, "I've always wanted to learn, what a programmer is. It really intrigues me. Can you show me some code?" And I got her to read a page on my screen. And I said, "What does that do?" And she read it and went,
"Right, could work it out.
Does it do blah?" And I went, "Exactly. Now you're a developer." So that's
which actually brings up a really good point. So we have a new generation of developers who don't for one, like they don't know how to read code. They know how to type a prompt. They need to know how to read code so that they understand what is the output that the LLM has generated.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest travesties of large LLMs these days is this idea that everything has to be written in Python. I mean, Python's a great language, but it's got so much line noise. You know, you've got all this added inapplicable def, int, and int files and all this sort of semicolons on the end of things, or no, indenting everywhere, right? But one other thing on, you asked me why Ruby on Rails, right? One of the critical things about Ruby on Rails that is so powerful is that you as a company can build a prototype in Rails and take that prototype from nothing to enterprise grade without having to replatform, without having to throw anything away. You can evolve it from nothing, one user, your mum logging in, all the way through to millions of users using that platform and never have to change your technology stack. And there's very few platforms that allow you to go from zero to that. There's a lot of platforms that allow you to go from where we're already generating $1 million a year. We're now going to build, a blah platform, or we're going to re-architect, or we're going to take it from into a multi-server environment, microservices environment, or there's a lot of things that can do that. But there's exceptionally few that a single developer on their weekend can start building a legitimate service and get it all the way to done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see a lot of these AI tools out there where they're going, we're just vibe coding a SaaS app, right? But they're doing it in JavaScript. And right. I'm going, oh my God. If you want to be a superpower in the SaaS app world, like with vibe coding, like if you're looking at doing vibe coding and you want to get in there and create something, I would highly recommend you use something like Claude and you tell it, we're going to build a SaaS app and I want to use Rails. And get it to build it in Rails with you, because Rails fundamentally has a whole heap of guardrails and security protections and database password secret hiding functions, and all this stuff which all of the vibe coders building these JavaScript apps just get constantly tripped up in. And if your AI is building a Rails app, then you're not building something brand new that's never been done before. You're using the existing roadways and how-to signs and all this sort of stuff. Once you start growing, you can call Reinteractive and say, hey, I need help with my Rails app. Can you please host it? Can you please give me 2 developers to work on it? And they can just come in and work with their AI agents, right? So I think that's one of the most powerful ideas that could be done these days.
It really is, because you can even get those tools to say, let's build out our test environment. Yeah, or let's separate out our development environment into our production environment now, and things like that. How do I set the environment variables? Things like that you need to know, but you can get the tools to help you, and it's easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is where the power of AI is coming in and doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You mentioned before about the scalability of Rails. I spoke to a lead developer at GitHub on Friday who's working on the Copilot team. And she said that GitHub is still Rails and no intention to change. There's some things they have to do in Rust, which is a necessity, but it's a Rails.
But even Ruby makes that easy, because you can just call directly out to those functions, So,
Yeah, which is super impressive. And that's a good example of somebody started it to solve a problem. Like, it was a small team, needed to solve a problem. They developed this tool and it's become the standard.
Yep, Tom Preston Weiner. And I know his Git handle more than his other name is defunct, because I worked with him a little bit, not professionally, but, the whole, through my contributions in Rails, and I have a soft spot for that, because I wrote the mail gem, right? So every one of your podcast listeners probably uses my software, through running the mail software out of the email handling library of GitHub, of Shopify, of Airbnb, like all of these Rails apps. Basecamp.
I think we're at about 600 million downloads.
Really? Is it that high now?
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
600 million downloads. I really should have charged $1 each, right? But anyway, whatever. Yeah, how I built Mail actually is a really funny story. I would love to hear it. So I was working at a nonprofit, and we needed a system to track donators and parishioners and things like that. It was a church-related nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And I started building a parishioner contact management system. I called it a PCS, parishioner contact system.
Right.
And I was starting on this, and I had a lot of previous experience with Visual Basic and some PHP, and I started building this in PHP, and I was just like, oh my God, do I really have to put the database include statement at the top of every single file?
Right, stab you down.
It was just like painful. And then I was browsing the internet, and I stumbled across DHH's Whoops, very famous Whoops video from the early noughties. And I watched it and went, well, that looks decent. So I installed Ruby, got Rails running, and I built this contact management system in 2006, which is still in use today in 4 languages, right?
Right, around the world.
Someone else took it over, and they're now looking after it, and it's growing. But while I was building this thing in Ruby, one of the things I wanted to handle in that PCS was to capture incoming replies to emails on emails that have been sent out by the staff. It's a very common feature these days in content management systems, but in contact management systems. But back then, that was not a common feature. So I built this thing using the mail library that was in Ruby at the time, called Tmail was the mail library. And it worked. And I'm like, holy hell, like I knew nothing about. Anyway, so I got this working.
Yeah, because mail protocol is like it's this ancient thing that we've dragged into present. Yeah.
So anyway, this is all working, and all of these emails are coming in. But as soon as I turned it on, I found a major problem, which was all of the spam email was coming in. So we were getting thousands of spam messages a day that I was saving into the database, just clogging up the system. And I was like, oh, how do I solve this spam problem? So I went and had a look at the spam messages, and I couldn't work out why they weren't getting caught by our spam filters. And the reason they weren't getting caught by the spam filters was there is a rule in RFC 822, I think it is. Anyway, one of the email RFCs, I mean, I literally have it on my computer, and while we're talking, I'm going to find it because I just want to be right.
Get the number right. No one's looking it up.
Because, we can't have the wrong number in a podcast like this. No, otherwise, people are going to be like,
listen to it and go, no,
be
actually,
man, and they're going to go, are you crazy? Anyway, it was in the RFC, and it basically says that if you can't parse an email, if you can't read an email, then like if it's invalid in some way, you have to pass it through, right? And and this is a rule that's been in mail forever. And the reason for this rule is that the whole mail ecosystem is constantly evolving.
Right. So your client might not be able to read it, but the rule is just allow it.
Yeah. That's right. So pulling all of this together meant that I was sitting in a situation where every one of these spam messages that was coming through was just getting cancelled, right? And it was coming up as an exception and then getting passed through. 1 second. So that was all happening, and all these spam messages were coming through. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. That actually gives me a clue. Spammers will create invalid emails to bypass spam filters.
Of course.
So obviously, professional email programs will generate valid email. So why don't I just put a rule in that if a message comes in that's got an exception, therefore it's a spam message, therefore I'll just delete it. Turned it on. Spam went down like 99%. I was a freaking genius. I'm like, I've just sold spam worldwide. Like
internationally,
I could monetize this. This is amazing. Except one small problem. 2 days later, my boss's bosses, but like way up the chain, comes in and goes, hey, just wondering, where are all my emails from management? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. So I went and had a look, and it was deleting all of the emails from management. And I'm like, why?
What?
And then I inspect, and of course, Microsoft Outlook generates invalid email.
Of course it does. Why wouldn't it?
Because it's Microsoft. Anyway, luckily I hadn't been deleting, I'd been flagging, so I got to pull them back in. But, this is just one of those things where the unintended consequence. Anyway, so I then looked at, I better fix Tmail. And I just couldn't. It was just way too old.
Just quick side, is Outlook still produce?
I haven't checked. Probably. I mean,
Probably.
Look,
why wouldn't it?
I would be amazingly surprised if they're exactly on RFC.
Right. Okay. Yep. Sorry, go on.
But so then I tried to fix Tmail and I just couldn't. It was just horrible. And Tmail was also embedded within Ruby on Rails at the time. It was part of the code base.
Right. Part of the package, yeah.
So I decided to write a mail gem. And I thought, how hard could this be? And understand at this point, I was not a really good Ruby programmer. I never built anything except a basic Ruby on Rails website.
Right.
So,
because up to that point, like everything's just CRUD, really.
Yeah, it's just create, read, update, HTML templates, whatever. So I sat down and basically said, make the mail, CD mail, opened it in text edit. And I went, where do I start? And I went and got the first RFC for the SMTP protocol and went, the first thing an email has to have is the date at the top. So let's parse out the date at the top. And I just literally wrote the RSpec spec for the feature that I wanted. Then I went and developed it. And then I just iterated on this again and again and again and again. And then I got to a point where mail was as powerful, if not more powerful than Tmail. And then I was at Ruby on Rails conference in, I think it was Austin. And I sat down with the Rails core team at the time. And in a one-day hacking session with us all together, I ripped out Tmail and replaced all the interactions with mail. And we created effectively the action mailer interface to mail, the mail gem. And we published that, which gave me the honorary status. And I think I still hold this as the most net negative contributor to the Rails gem in history.
Removing the most lines.
Removing the most lines of code of I think I'm at, my total contribution to Rails is negative 32,000 lines of code or something, which is good because less code means less bugs. Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm very proud of that. And I don't think anyone's ever going to beat me because there isn't another gem that can be sort of ripped out like that.
You can just rip out like that. And update-wise, that was in the early days. Has there been much to update with that over the years as Rails versions and Ruby versions change?
In terms of the mail to Rails interface, no. It's I mean, there's been minimal stuff, but nothing serious. And more recently, I've had some amazing people help on building mail out further. So hey.com is running on mail. And so Jeremy Kemper from that era came in and helped build out a whole bunch more things. And I've had a bunch of other contributors on GitHub. And I very rarely do anything on mail. I mean, if there's a urgent, oh my God, this is a serious security risk. If there's a good pull request there with good specs, I'll commit it and help release another gem. But that it really speaks to the power of the platform that it hasn't had to have. There was a lot of work when we went from Ruby 1.7 to 1.8 through to 1.86, which was the big UTF change, where it went from ASCII strings to being able to handle multi-byte characters in the actual language and interoperate. And then there was another big change from 1.8 to 1.9. But since Ruby 2, it's been very, very simple.
Right. Those UTF changes, was that to handle internationalization? Is that right?
Yeah, or different characters. And so there was a lot of situation happening in the back in the good old days, which maybe not many of your listeners are dealing with, but where the servers would be responding in different character sets and you'd get blocks on your screen and where they couldn't display the fonts and stuff. So a lot of that came back to Rails and, more importantly, Ruby's inability to understand and natively work in UTF-8. There was a lot of transcompiling and transliteration is the word, to go from one formatted language or one character set to another. And you heard of CATS and DHH, and there was a whole bunch of people that really, Jose Valim, really lent into Aaron Patterson.
I spoke to him just last week.
Jose's hilarious.
He is amazing. I just had the best conversation.
Yeah, he's just so cool. And all of his work with Elixir is just like Elixir is Rails in a functional, like it's got all these parts of Rails, but that's wrong. It's not Rails. It's inspired by, but in a functional language of Erlang. But you know, I remember one year at a Ruby conference, there were all of these Mac versus PC ads coming out at the time. And then a friend of mine, Greg Pollack, and his friend, name escapes me, they had a company called MV Labs, and they released these PHP versus Rails or other language versus Rails.
Right.
Like Java versus Rails ads. And they're available online. You should go watch them. They are freaking hilarious.
Pull some of those out.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Java, hey, Rails, you know, what are you doing, Java? Just doing all my boilerplate code, you know, I got to do all this boilerplate before I can launch. Don't you have that problem? No, I just type Rails new. Anyway, it's hilarious. Anyway, Jose came to a conference and they did this whole skit with the Kaiser Chiefs song, Ruby, Ruby, Ruby. And anyway, I just have this fond memory of him going crazy on stage with the Ruby song. Yeah.
What a guy, though. I think we spoke for an hour and a half and at the end I was like, I think we've got to stop.
Right. I was right. RFC 822. That was
okay, good. Yeah. All right, good. We don't need to add any addendums to the
so I literally started on 822, got that working, then went to 2822, which added a whole bunch of stuff, and then the 5 series, which was all the multi-part MIME types, images, and things like that. So it's been a journey.
Would I be right in assuming that those standards haven't changed that much over time?
A lot of 822, well, pretty much every one of them says, this is the new standard, but you better support all of that shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So you sort of had to start from 822. And, you know, it's one of those really interesting things as an entrepreneur. You can just do stuff, right? So I didn't ask anyone permission to start writing a mail library for Ruby.
Right.
I just saw that there was missing. And then I went, well, how the hell does one go about implement? Like, how do you code a mail library from scratch? And it was like, well, read the manual, like read the RFC and go from there and see where you get. And I would be coding this at the end of my day after work between like 10 and midnight, 7 days a week, pretty much. And I just kept building it in 1 to 2 hours a day every day for like 6 months until it was mail version 1 and I released it and to acclaim. Yeah.
And that is what it is. Interesting point. You can just do things. And that doesn't just go for entrepreneurs. Like when I speak to people on this podcast, I'm speaking to the people who are doing things, obviously. Yeah. And one of the themes that comes up frequently is we hear people talk about or complain about things. You know, I don't like this group, or I don't like these people, or I don't like the way this is implemented. Just do something about it. Like, you know, if you don't like how that committee operates, jump on its board or jump in as a member and contribute and discover what needs to be done. If you don't like the way the conference is run, go and help run it. You know, like you can do that. It's actually okay. You don't Yeah,
and I think that's very important. And I think there's a very important proviso on that, which is, if you don't like the way something's run, don't just go in and complain about the way it's being run. Go and earn your stripes. And the way you earn your stripes is you go and contribute and improve it from where it currently is. So the best way to change something is not through revolution, it's through evolution. So what you want to do is you want to go in and modify and contribute in an area, get people's trust on how you're helping the organization, the group get better, then propose incremental changes and start moving it in the direction you want to do. Or if you think that's not possible, go start another thing.
Go start your own language.
You know, but that's how it can work, right?
Sure.
And that's the wonderful thing with open source.
Yeah.
Like my daughter, whenever she comes to me, she's 8. Whenever she comes to me with a problem, like she can't solve something or something doesn't do the thing she wants, I always ask her, what have you tried to do to fix it? And she might go, well, I don't know. Say, good. Go away and figure out 2 things that you could do that could make it work, right? Or if she's playing with a toy, I might say, well, what about that toy would you want to change? Like, what would you want to improve around that? To get her thinking with the idea that the world is not just a place where you walk through passively
as a
receiving
spectator.
the things. Yeah, you don't want to be a spectator.
Mm.
Really, I think a really important thing is that every piece of code that we use, this podcast system that we're talking on, this StoreConnect plushie toy was created by somebody, right? And there was a series of decisions that went in to make this. I know because I helped make freaking all of them with my amazing staff. Like Lisa has sweated over this plushie more than any single person on planet Earth.
Did she come up with Steve?
No, that was, actually, I don't know. I think she did, but we actually voted Steve in. So this is our plushie. He's a Tasmanian devil. His name's Steve. He's StoreConnect. And we had this team meeting where we had all our team, and we wanted to come up with the most Australian name we could come up with. Mm-hmm. And the two proposals that came up were Dave and Steve. The problem was we had Dave working in the company, so we couldn't take Dave. So Steve was the one that got voted in. And Steve's just a great name for an Australian plushie toy. And everyone thinks it's going to be something really, esoteric. What's the name of your plushie? Steve. But yeah, you can just do things. So you see code that's not working, fix it.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me actually, I'm going to paraphrase completely here, but I was on Twitter, someone was complaining about some documentation on Rails, like, there wasn't enough of this and there wasn't enough of that and I don't understand this. And DHH responded and said, I look forward to your pull request.
Yeah, please do implement. Please do implement. The very famous DHH line.
Right.
Yeah.
Which just makes perfect sense. And I realize when I do this podcast, I'm talking to people that have done incredible things, amazing things, like starting entire programming languages and contributing to things that are changing the world, like literally. But you realize they're people just like I am. I'm not going to say like you, but they are people, regular people.
That's exactly what it is, right? They're just people that want to scratch an itch and they scratch the itch and then they fix something.
Right. They don't mind working hard. That's true. They don't mind working from 10 p.m. till midnight, 7 days a week, if that's what it takes to get it done. For no money, if that's what it takes to get it done. But at the end of the day, you've done something and you can go, okay, I actually fixed a problem here and people appreciate that. And, you don't even have to be known for that. Like, I don't know, there'll be many people that know you as the author of the Mail Gem, but there's many people that don't know you.
Yeah, maybe a few hundred people worldwide, and which is fine, right? But one of the things that's interesting, when I'm on a phone call and they say, why should we use your company? And I say, because you already use my software. Yeah. They go, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, have you ever received an email from blah, 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 blah? And they go, well, yeah. And I said, well, my software wrote that, So, it also gives you a lot of strength of character to know that you can fix something, because it's one thing to go, I don't like that. And it's another thing to go, I don't like that and I'm going to do something about it. And, I didn't get permission from my boss to rewrite the Mail Gem. He would have said no. It's like, it's got nothing to do with the company or the organization. It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're going to spend all this time to write software and then give it away for free? That's your business plan? Yeah. I just did it, right? I didn't do it on company time or organizational time. It's not a company, it's a nonprofit, it's a charity. But I did it in my own time. And the only time I had available after all of my other obligations in life was the wee hours of the morning. So I just kept learning and just kept hammering at it until it worked. And surprisingly, it worked.
It is a... Not a business model, but it's a way of doing things in this industry. Like we do that. Of course, Reinteractive is here to make money, but there are things that we all do as developers that don't add up to that. Like I spoke to a few of the developers and said, what did you do over Christmas? And one for one, well, I worked on this hobby project and I developed this tool and that's everybody.
And that's awesome. But that's the only way you need to learn. You need to play with that. Sometimes I'll fire up Rust or Go and just have a play and because you get ideas. Oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I could use that over here or what have you.
Now, would you think that LLMs as they exist, Claude, Codex and others, they democratize the industry a little bit? Like it opens it up to other people to go, I just want to build a thing. I'll give you an example. I have a couple of old clients that I have to keep invoicing for domain names, and it annoys me because I have to maintain MYOB at $50 or $60 a month, and I don't even get that much money out of it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to rebuild an invoicing application. And I rebuilt it, took a week, and it works as well, in my opinion, better than something I can purchase for $10 of hosting a month. So we democratize. Now, I know a little bit. Like, obviously, I'm not a newbie at this. I know a little bit, and I understand what it takes to build something like that. But other people can do this too. They don't have to know programming. They can learn it as they go. This is something you find.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a controversial take or not, but I don't think the LLMs are changing anything. They're just making things faster. And what I mean by that is previously, like 2 years ago, you didn't have to know anything about developing software to build a software application.
How
that
so?
hasn't changed.
How so? Well, like, explain that.
So I'm an entrepreneur, and I know taxi driving. And I go, you know what? One day I want to build an app where you can just summon a car. Okay, I'm going to call it. Let's pick a random name, Uber. And I go and find Errol, and I say, hey, Errol, you work at this software company. Could you build me an app called Uber? And this is what it needs to do. These are all of the requirements that I need. This is what my success criteria looks like. This is everything that I need for that. And Errol goes, yeah, that's pretty good, but have you thought about A, B, C, D? Good, you come to an agreement. Now, Errol gives that to his developers at Reinteractive, and off they go and build the app. They come back, is this what you want? The guy goes, yeah, no, not really. I want this, this, and this. And you go through this iterative loop until you end up with the app. Today, it's exactly the same, except you can go to an AI agent instead of Errol and say, hey, I want to build this out. Now, you might still, if you have zero technical experience, you might still go straight to Errol and say, hey, I need help building this app. Except instead of it costing $500,000 to build, it's now going to cost $100,000 to build because Errol can use the efficiency of AI models with his development team.
Added to the existing knowledge.
That's right. And it speeds up, right? So alternatively, back in the old day, you could have, instead of going to Errol and a professional services team that really know what the hell they're doing, you could have gotten Joey, who knows a little bit of Shopify development, who's a nephew of yours, to build something, and it would have worked. It would have security holes. It would have unthought through processes. It wouldn't really have much testing. And that is sort of what happens when right now, if you got an entrepreneur that goes, you know what, I'm just going to vibe code this. They will build something that will work in some definition of that term, but it's going to have all these missing things. Really, the LLM revolution is fundamentally removing the middle of that chain. It's compressing the middle of that chain and the chain being idea to design to development to go live and production. That development area is getting compressed in terms of speed. Now, really, that hasn't changed a lot. And the way I work with LLMs these days across all of my various SaaS companies is I still have a developer there because, and I use it as well for my own little hobby projects and even not hobby projects. When I do founder code on StoreConnect, I'm using an LLM. But I'm able to, as a professional developer, look at that output and see if it passes the sniff test, right? See if it passes the pub test. Hang on, that doesn't really seem right. This isn't thinking with ABC. Oh, I forgot to prompt it. Computers will always do exactly what you tell them to do. They will almost never do what you want them to do. Right? So
the skill then is still in writing the correct ticket at the start. What is the test criteria? What's the expected output?
There was this meme out on the internet that said, with LLMs, all that has to happen is the business user can just write the requirements and the software gets built. And then the next panel of the comic is a developer saying, oh, thank God our jobs are safe. Because that's been the promise of every language iteration. Like in the 70s, they were talking about COBOL being a natural language business application development framework where non-programmers could write a COBOL program. The problem is that development, the act of translating the thought into the language is the least hard bit of software development. That's the easiest bit. The hard bit is architecting that structure around. Do I need one user per account? Do I need multi-users per account? What are the relationships of the data models? How do I take this messy real world and convert it into very precise ones and zeros?
What is the sequence of the epics?
What's the sequence of the events? What's the user journey? What screens do I want to display? All that creativity still exists with LLMs.
Right.
And that's where most of the development work comes in.
And then at the other end, there is a question of how do I use Git? How do I deploy to a production server? How do I
not lose all my code base on day 2 by accidentally writing the wrong file? Yeah. And all of that's happened, right? So I think the beauty of LLMs, and I'm relying on them more and more and more, and my whole team has to use it, like it's a requirement, is how do we make that discovery and build those skills up in the discovery? And really, if you're looking at learning how to or wanting to be a developer these days, a software developer, I think it's still a great industry to get into.
Yeah.
You 100% should build something from absolute scratch with no LLM. Like go and launch a Rails app and build yourself a blog. It used to be sort of a rite of entry as a software developer to write your own blog post software.
Yeah.
It still exists.
Yeah.
But, building that from scratch and getting that experience or finding a software library and going and building it, you can use LLMs to train you and to teach you, but you're only going to learn from your mistakes of infrastructure by reading and understanding code.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it's still the way to do it. And you can use the LLM tool to say, explain to me what this block of code does. What does this function do? That sort of thing. And that definitely helps explain the various directories and the files that I see here. Explain what all of this is. And that is very, very helpful. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to read a piece of code and go, okay, I understand what this is doing now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is the hard thing.
When I speak to different developers, the consensus is currently we have about a 20 to 30% increase in productivity. And this is from senior developers, CTOs, people like that. Do you see that changes dramatically over the next couple of years? Or do you think we're sort of at this sort of level now of 30%? Maybe it's too difficult to answer that question.
No, it'll keep going up. The thing that I think everyone misses is that doesn't mean we're suddenly going to have 30% more free time, because everyone's productivity level's rising with AI, right? So you have a 30% jump, but so does your competition. And this is why I find it's really interesting out there how people talk about, AI tools mean the end of SaaS software, right? I can just code Salesforce in a weekend. No, you can't. You just can't. I mean, but here's the thing, right? Those SaaS companies are using, I can tell you, StoreConnect is using AI to its absolute limit to build our software feature set, right? So we have all of these staff using AI, leveraging Rails, right? They're absolute machines on the volume of code that we're putting out. So for you to rewrite StoreConnect in a weekend with SaaS, you would have to put the same overall effort and computational power into what we're doing. And we're already using all of that computational power. So you still have to have a whole team doing the same thing as what we're doing to catch up to where we are, because we're already using
with their built-in experience and knowledge.
Right. And 8 years of doing it wrong. Right.
Yeah.
So where the real strength in the future of SaaS companies lies is in the domain knowledge, right? It's the workflows. Anyone can build a CRUD app in a weekend. Absolutely. No SaaS app these days is just a CRUD app. Any good SaaS application these days is giving you direction and architecture on how to run the workflows of your business so as to better make money through hard-won work and experience of how do businesses like this run. There might be a point, and there will be a point at some point in the future where you say to your AI agent, hey, I'm running a business that's doing blah. Please create a platform for me. And there'd be enough knowledge for the system to do that. We're a fair ways away from that. But even then, there will be developer roles in that.
Of course.
Because there will be something around that. LLMs are really good at taking creative ideas of humans and turning them into actual functional code. But there's that little phrase at the stuff, creative ideas from humans. Someone has to throw the rock to make it break the other rock. You can't, the rock doesn't just jump off the ground and smash the other rock to smash it into bits to get gravel.
Brand new ideas that haven't been thought yet can only come from the humans still.
That's right. Or someone might say, yeah, but my LLM came up with 10 ideas. And you say, well, okay, why did it come up with those ideas? Well, I asked it to. Well, what did you ask it? I said, come up with 10 really great ideas about the intersection of these three industries. He said, well, what made you think about intersecting those three industries? Oh, it was just a bright idea I had. I went, there you go.
Well done, human.
Well done, human. That's your job description. You create. It's this joy of creating. And I think that's part of why, again, coming back to your first question, why Rails? It's just a joy to use Rails. It's a joy to open up an app and not have it fight you. I remember one of my staff, one of my favorite staff in the company. Actually, I shouldn't say that. All my staff are favorite. Someone that I've worked with for a long time that I really respect on the design aspect, right? And she was working with us for a whole bunch of years. She went off to work for a client doing design to forward her career. It's great. And I always support my team to move. But they were using Java. And then after about 4 years, 5 years, she asked if she could come back to Reinteractive. I went, yeah, absolutely, come back. So she comes back. And I think it was on her first or second day, she just writes into our chat app, Ruby, hello, my old friend. And you could feel in that line, you could feel the relief flowing through her, right? That she could just go from idea to execution and not go through all this boilerplate, template, class
wading
constructor
through the molasses.
Yeah.
I've got another question for you. You are a serial entrepreneur. I think that's a term. And you probably could write other books about how it's not just the code. Like if you have a great idea for something, let's say build an e-commerce product on top of Salesforce, you can put enormous money and time and effort into building that. But then there's another step after that, the marketing of that thing, which is unknown to a lot of people. Like it's an X
unknown
factor.
To everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
No one has a real answer. But yeah, I mean, I've written another book with a friend of mine, Tony Melvin, called True Team. That's more about the management side of life and how to run a successful business and how to grow a business. We'll probably be writing another one about how we market our SaaS products and how we go to market on that.
Because SaaS is not just it's a fit. There's an actual product there, but there is so much more to a business.
Yeah, you got to know how to run the company. You have to get the right people on the right jobs. Yeah, I mean, I could talk for many days on the theories of management and application. I think one of my skills has been building cohesive teams in a 100% remote work environment. So all of my companies have been remote work. Since 2010, 100%. We've never had an office where people sit down and work at a computer. In any one of my, I don't know how many companies now. I've sold 4. I've got 3 left, so that's 7. So yeah, that whole activity, there's a lot of things around that, and culture and expectation. I think the biggest takeaway for building a business though is get the right person on the right job, and then give them the agency and responsibility to achieve their outcomes, and expect that they do.
Right.
If you keep coming in and trying to micromanagement itself isn't bad. Managing away the responsibility that person has for their post is bad. So what I mean by that is, Errol, as you said at the start, Errol works with me at Reinteractive. I can call him at any point at any time of the day and say, hey, Errol, what's happening with this sale, or what's happening, or I think we should do blah. And Errol will take that call and, I hope not too reluctantly, answer the communication and accept the suggestion, or he'll come back with an alternative, right? That could be considered micromanaging because I'm saying, instead of this, do that. For me, that's totally fine as long as I'm getting an understanding from Errol about what he's already tried to do to achieve this and what blocks and barriers he's running into. And if the blocks and barriers are effectively above his pay grade, like outside of his scope of responsibility, then the manager does need to come in or the founder does need to come in. Or
knowledge or education on that particular
data.
point. Like it happens.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we all have learning to do. We all have growth.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the most fundamental thing, I think, in terms of management is that agency and responsibility for getting the job done. And then the other side of that is, there's two other main sides of it, is measure the production of your team, that you have to have a way to know if Errol's doing a better job this year than last year. Now, with sales, that's quite easy. With software development, it's a little harder, but I've worked out ways around doing that as well. And it's not lines of code written. And the third one is every time something unusual happens where you're being asked as a founder to make a decision, put that in writing as a policy so that future you, instead of having to type out what to do, can just send a link to that policy to whoever's asking you.
Right. Or your staff have already read it so that thing doesn't happen again. Or your staff
have already read it so you don't have to be asked the question.
Have you got an example of that just off the top of your head? I mean, I probably could give you one, but is there something, one of those things that's occurred and you go, okay, here's how we're going to handle this in the future because this is how we correctly handled it this time?
I'll give you a really simple example.
Okay.
I had a team member come dressed inappropriately to an event. And it wasn't bad. Like it was a designer shirt. Like it was great. But it had logos all over, like slogans and logos all over it, right? And they weren't even offensive logos. But it was actually the brand itself's logo all over it, right? And this was a professional event. Now, I could walk up to that person and have to go through the social challenge of saying, hey, I don't think we should really wear, and I did at the time. I said, hey, look, your shirt looks lovely. Like you look fine, but we don't want to be promoting. We don't want to be promoting other companies at our events. I don't want you known as, can't even remember what the brand was, but I don't know. I don't want you known as the
Versace.
Nike girl, right? Or whatever, right? Versace or whatever it is, right? And she understood that and took that on, right? But then when I went home, the first thing I did was I opened up Metapulse, which is my growth management system, and I just wrote a policy, dress code at events. And it was just really simple. And it was like 3 paragraphs.
Right.
Neat, casual, no slogans outside of StoreConnect branding. Like if you want to wear one of our, StoreConnect polo shirts, you can wear that. If it's a large sponsored event, then you have to wear that, because we want to be visible. We're paying a lot of money. And I just detailed that in a policy letter, issued it to all staff, and I've never had to think about it again.
Right. Never comes up again because it's dealt with. Yeah.
And that's now part of our onboarding manual. So my HR person now, when someone starts at StoreConnect, they've got 50 odd policies to read, where my HR manager, we call them an establishment manager because they establish the staff's ability to do work and get problems out of the way and help them achieve their job function. She goes through and checks them on all the policies and says, okay, tell me about the dress code. Oh, I don't know about the dress code. You just read it. So let's go have a look and see if there's something in it you don't understand, and clears that up and then gets that done. And, you just build these as you grow the business.
It also then gives her the authority to, because you've already written it. So you've already said what's needed. All she has to do is go, let's read this. We don't have to refer back to Michael again.
And don't have to constantly send me emails and questions saying, is this okay? It's like, I've already, it's literally there. And also, if someone, say I go to an event and I spy someone, or I'm watching a video of an event, which I wasn't at and one of my staff was, and in that video I see a staff member inappropriately dressed, or inappropriately is a really strong word, just not dressed per our code, right?
Right.
Then instead of me having to get upset about it and have to call that person and do all that sort of thing, I just log into Metapulse and I assign that policy letter to that person for restudy. And I put the reason for restudy. I saw in a video that you were wearing a blah shirt. This is violating the code. Please restudy the reference. Metapulse sends that policy off to that staff member. It pops up their inbox. They have to click it and reread it. And then at the bottom, attest that they've read it. They click the checkbox, hit submit. I get a notification back saying they've now done that. That's now recorded in the system. And if I then see another video of them not following that, I resend them the policy letter, right? Mm-hmm. Except this time now, Kate, my HR manager, gets an alert that this is the second time they've had to read that same policy letter. So she calls them and says, hey, is there anything about this you have disagreement on, or what do we have to do to fix this? Then the third time it happens, it's like, okay, come on, guys. Can you just follow the policy? But now we're trying to retrain our staff and help our staff become more on policy of what we do as a company. Little things like, I'll give you another really good example. We have a policy in our Metapulse environment called, not sure what the exact title is, but fundamentally it's a we don't do that here policy. And what that does is it outlines a whole bunch of things that we just don't do in our business. So, for example, spruiking a religion or a political philosophy, these days they're the same thing, or a social campaign, or hazing people about things or teasing them, all this sort of stuff. We just don't do that at StoreConnect or Reinteractive. So I have a policy that lists that out. And it says in that policy that if you see anyone doing this, you can just reply in the chat, we don't do that here, and link to this policy. And that empowers the team to keep all of that under control because we have a policy of it.
Right. So what's interesting? You know what's interesting, Michael, and as you're describing this, it actually makes sense to me. You are at heart a developer, not necessarily a manager or an entrepreneur. You're at heart a developer. And having these exactly defined policies are a little bit similar to the documentation a developer would expect to read, because the documentation says this is the way it's done. And there's actually no other way to do it. Like, that's the way it's done. If you don't do it that way, the code doesn't work.
Yeah, and if we don't do it that way, the business suffers in some way or another.
Right. And we know this. So just do what that says, and it comes out, because we know the outcome at the end.
I'm also very careful in a lot of our policies. Like, I have a policy in our Metapulse called Why Do We Have Policy, right? Where I describe this. And in that, it also says that if you find something that's obviously wrong, that is policy, propose change. Like, please do implement. Go and do the open source thing and propose the update.
Yeah.
And Metapulse allows any staff member to propose a change to a policy, right? So, this is how we evolve as a company, because I don't pretend to know everything. I mean, I obviously do. No, I don't. But
you have to pretend sometimes.
I have to pretend sometimes that I know everything. But the staff have, and my team, and they all have a lot of joy. I tell you a funny thing about policy. We had a client once who was asking us to do something which would have benefited them greatly and really harmed us financially. Actually, I'll tell the whole story. Okay. So we had an enterprise level company come, and they said, look, we're ready to go ahead. It's 4 developers full time for like 6 months. There's just one point in your contract. It says that you take payment in advance. We don't pay in advance. We pay 90 days after the end of the month the invoice is issued. And that's it. And I said to them that, well, we actually have a policy that says we can't do that. Now, I write the policy, right? And they said, oh, really? And I went, yeah, here it is. And I turned the screen around, and there's the policy on payment terms. And they went, oh, okay, well, maybe we should modify it, right? It was like the instant thing. Even though I'd written the policy, they took that as more powerful than me saying no, right? Anyway, it didn't actually fully work, which annoyed me a little bit, but it got the conversation started, right?
Yeah.
Then a bit later, which is the funny thing, they came back to me and said, sorry, we understand your policies, so we've modified our things. It's now 30 days after the end of the month the invoice is issued. And I went, okay, well, thank you for that. And they said, good. So can we start? And I said, yeah, absolutely. If you sign the contract, we'll get started. And they're like, okay, so if we sign the contract, when can your developers start? And I went, well, 30 days after the end of the month, the invoice is issued. And there's this dead silence in the room. And they went, but we want you to start now. And I said, well, I want to be paid now, And I said, look, understand this. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm a small business. If you need a loan for that money, I'm sure your bank will give it to you. If you can't afford it, I understand, but I need to pay my team. They're not going to work for free for you for a month and a half. And they went, okay. And they just signed, and then the check landed the next day, and that was that.
So your policy will trump a large enterprise accounting system?
Many times. Not always, but people put a lot of value into something that's written. There's a really good saying of, if it's not written, it's not true, right? And my team at Reinteractive are trained. Like, if you're a client or a prospective client, you say to Errol, oh, look, Michael's a mate and he said, give me 20% off. Errol's going to go, oh, really? Can you show me that email in writing, please?
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, no, he just told me over lunch. And I went, oh, okay, thank you for that. And Errol knows to come and check with me, right? Because it's not true at that point. So there's a lot of this sort of thing. And when you put something in writing, it just seems more powerful.
Look, I will say this, having spent years doing enterprise sales, that there is nothing wrong with pushing back when a client says, hey, can you just... Yes, it's expected even. Yeah, and nothing is personal. It's not.
No, it's all just business.
Yeah, it's all business. That's right. They either have the funds or they do not.
Yeah.
And if they have the funds, then a deal can be done.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the more leverage you have in terms of survivability, the more you can push back. And that's really the other key, But yeah.
I want to bring up another point. You said before, you talk about being right and, you're not right all of the time. I think presenting yourself as being right is crucial if you're to run a business. Now, of course, you have to take advice from your staff because perhaps they know more than you do on a particular subject. Maybe they've researched it more or they understand more about it because they're just doing it day to day. That makes sense. But as an owner, and it reminds me a lot of when we hear stories about DHH. And a lot of people dislike that he is very certain on subjects, but also willing to change. And there was a recent example of that a year ago. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Where he said that AI agents can't really produce good code, and now he's changed models and now it's producing good code. And he said, yeah, I'm wrong. I think it's, you cannot, by definition, you cannot be right 100% of the time, almost. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know by definition if that's the right word, but
maybe
reality,
majority right.
You have to be more than 50% right. And the further up that percentage you go, the better your survival will be. I think the most important thing, though, as a founder is you are paid as an entrepreneur to make decisions. You're not really paid for anything else. And the reason you run a company or you're able to run a company is you are willing or you are putting yourself out there in order to take those decisions and run with them, right? People will work for somebody who can make a decision, stick to it, execute on it, and follow through. And even if it's wrong sometimes, at least you committed, right? So I think you can't always be right. And quite often, the longer you think about something, the more wrong you're going to be. You're better off taking that initial, get as much data as you can in the shortest amount of time as possible, make a decision and commit. And get that decision off your plate and go to the next problem. Because as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you'll have an infinite number of problems to solve. So there's no lack of problems to solve. And that is what you're being paid to do. That's why the top business owners / whatever are earning so much money. It's not because they're producing more output than a full-time developer. It's because they're solving more problems per hour than anyone else.
Or solving the big ones with big solutions.
Right. Which is the same, that just scales it, right? So this is what you're paid for as an entrepreneur. So your job is to set up your lines and your communication channels and your team so that you're able to solve problems in the most efficient way possible. And if you can do that, that's great. One of the really powerful ways of doing this is never, never, never solve a problem that any junior presents to you. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but fundamentally, if Errol comes to me and says, hey, I've got this client, they want to do blah, what should I do? He knows that my first answer is going to be, well, what do you think we should do? And he's going to then come back and just for a note for the podcast, Errol never calls me just with a, I don't know what to do. He always comes with a potential solution.
This is what I'm going to do.
This is what I'm thinking. And it's a bit outside my world. So is that okay? Because, I'm going to commit resources over here, or I'm doing this, which is not really part of my job hat, but it solves this problem over here. And so I've decided that if we do A, B, C, D, we'll get outcome F. And I'll go, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go. Right. But if he just brings me I need outcome F, I haven't done any research on how to achieve it, I've got no real idea on how to do it.
Solve this
Tell me
for
what
me,
I should do. Please solve it on a platter.
Yeah.
Now, if I, as the business owner, solve that and it goes well, who takes the credit? Well, Errol does, the junior, right? Because look at this deal I pulled off. It all worked. I'm amazing.
Yeah. Look at all the commission I just earned.
If I solve that problem and it goes horribly wrong, who's to blame? Well, the boss. He gave me the crap solution, right? So as an owner, it's lose-lose.
You're also expected to solve a problem that you don't have all the data on too.
Exactly.
Like how do you know more?
Exactly. So you're better off enforcing that your team brings you proposed solutions. And then if you can't look at the proposed solution with all the data and make a decision like that, it means they haven't given you enough data. So send them away to get the right data.
Yeah.
And really protect your problem-solving time and your problem.
Right, that point where you go, doesn't quite make sense. Go away, get me more data.
That's right.
Yeah.
So really protect your problem-solving time and your capacity. You really have to hold and guard that because you only have so much life to give, life force even, right? Before you get run down and beaten down and whatever, and you need a holiday or what have you. You got to protect that like it's gold.
Something that I think is noticeable about some of the top executives, at least in the world that I see, the companies that are doing well, the executives are less stressed. Perhaps because they have that ability to control their juniors, or their juniors are presenting the right data. Like that, they definitely don't seem to have that stress about them. People like, who's a good example of that? Toby, who owns Shopify. Is probably a good example of that. I mean, maybe it's just an image.
It also helps that he's got a lot of money in the bank now. I mean, there would have been a time in the early days where he was a lot more stressed. But no, speaking to your point, I've met Toby. I've listened to some podcasts he's been on. He's a fantastic example of a manager and an entrepreneur. And that idea of asking my daughter how to, what would she change about her toys is something that Toby talked about.
Right.
And that it's very true. Once you get to a point where you realize that your job is making these decisions and enabling your team to do well, it starts freeing up time in your world to look into the future.
Yeah, right. Or come up with new ideas. Here's another product I want to start developing or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the future? We're probably out of time. Not necessarily about developers. What's your world look like in 5 years or 10 years, given the current scene, or is that too hard?
I don't know. I mean, StoreConnect will do what it's going to do. It'll probably get acquired or amalgamated at some point, or we'll make it public, or we'll list it, or whatever. Maybe keep it private. Who knows? That will go well. In probably 5 or 10 years, I'll be working on Metapulse, probably full time. Unless StoreConnect does something completely unexpected. But I'll probably be working on Metapulse, growing that. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting because large language models will be at a point where they'll be able to ingest more data, and business owners will be able to use products like Metapulse to figure out what to do next. Like my dream with Metapulse is you log into Metapulse and say, hey, I want to start a business doing blah. What's the first thing I should do?
Right. Yeah, right.
And it just comes up with, well, okay, you need two statistics: how much you've sold and how much you've delivered. Like, let's start with that.
Right.
And your first job is to go find someone to buy the product off you. Like, but we haven't even built the product yet. I know.
Go and sell something.
And this is how you can do it. These are 3 options. And, help the person build a business that way and track compliance and do all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, Metapulse for me is the executive, the establishment, and the quality parts of an organization. So there's a lot of software out there that handles sales and finance and production and promotion and marketing and all these other sundry things. There's very few programs out there that handle establishment and executive functions and ensuring the quality is correct. And that's really
without doing an MBA, I don't think there's any. Like an MBA is what that is. Like
the whole degree program. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there's very few software products that provide that, right? There are software products out there that do HR, but only in the absolute irreducible minimum of firing people and hiring people, right? Maybe training them. So I want to build that system that helps entrepreneurs and business owners of all sizes take their business to another level. And that's really my dream for Metapulse.
They're also separate, Michael. Like if you have a piece of software that helps you do your hiring and helps you find candidates, it's not the same piece of software that helps you train your staff. So you can't put those 2 pieces of information together, at least not easily.
Not currently, no. And that's where Metapulse is going.
Okay. All right. So watch this space.
Watch this space. And, I mean, in terms of the development and the software side, it's just going to speed up. And that's what's always happened with industry. As throughout human history, technology has allowed things to go faster. And everyone thinks that it's gone faster. That means everyone is going to go out of work. No, it's just lifting the productivity level of society up to a whole new level where instead of it taking, 3 months to build an app, a competent developer will be able to build it in a couple of weeks or a day. And I think one of the biggest things that really needs to be careful of is that the scoping and the specification and extracting that data is going to be the real skill set into the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Until we get a conceptual brain to handwritten note translation device, which may or may not ever happen, someone's going to have to pull that data out of somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Michael, it's been a great conversation. Just before we finish, anything you want to say or anything you thought of at the start that I didn't let you answer?
I don't think so. It was a fun conversation. You can find me on LinkedIn. I post there quite often. I'm also on X, and Lindsaar.net is my domain name.
Great. I'll add those to the show notes. Great. Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Michael.
See you later.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Technology for Humans is hosted by me, Errol Schmidt, and produced by Reinteractive, a Ruby on Rails development agency working with teams who care about building software that lasts. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join us as we explore how technology is built by humans for humans.